afternoon, Patriots. This is the American Vision, broadcast on the TLBTV network and brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project. I'm your host, Bill Muckler, and I'm coming to you from my home studio in Cocoa, Florida. And today I'm honored to have a special guest with me, Robin Thomas. And Robin is going to tell us about an organization I've learned about called Flags Forgotten for Forgotten Soldiers, and we're going to talk to Robin about a lot of issues that are involved with our veterans and veterans PTS and veteran suicide, and Robin is also a Gold Star mother. So Robin, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that we have an opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Bill. I'm really honored to be here. I'm really excited that we get a chance to have this talk. I'd like to talk about, veterans and veterans issues and veteran suicide and, all of that stuff.
Yes, and for those of you who don't know this, Robin is coming to us from somewhere in the north, but normally she's down here in the Brevard County area where I'm at, and she's a member of the Veterans Memorial Center in Brevard County, which I am too. And so we meet and talk at the meetings and everything, and that's when I got, she gave me her card, and we talked about her being on the show, and I wanted everybody to hear her story and learn more about Flags for Forgotten Soldiers and more about her and her son and everything there is about, because this is such an important message that everybody really needs to hear. And I think a lot of people are going to learn a lot about this because, as Robin and I talked about before the show, we don't know what we don't know, and so we're going to talk about some of those things. So, Robin, where are you right now? And tell us a little bit about how you got into all. Oh, and Robin is also an Air Force vet, so. She has the perspective and the expertise to talk on this subject.
Well, I have to laugh because I'm probably not very far away from where you are. My home is in North Merritt Island, so I probably am within a 10-mile radius of where you're at right now.
Oh,
so,
are you down here now? I thought you were up north someplace for a while.
I was visiting up north.
Oh,
so
okay.
So we're just. I was up.
That means Robin is just right across the river there. This is a river that separates us from Merritt Island.
We're way over on the other side of it.
Okay, golly. All right. Well, then I'll see you at the next Wednesday morning meeting, I guess, next week.
That's true. I think it's day after tomorrow.
Right? Oh, is it this week?
I think so.
Oh, okay. We better check our calendars because I know I hadn't seen you for the last meeting or two, and so you were visiting up north. Okay. So I'm interrupting. Let me get back to you and your story.
So as Bill has said, I was active duty Air Force, and a strange story that I was stationed at Patrick Air Force Base here in Brevard County when my youngest son, Terry, his name's Jeffery O'Hearn, he was born while I was on active duty. So, we fast forward to the time when he decides that he's going to join the military. I come from a long line of my dad's cousins. I have a couple aunts. Going in the military was not something that I concerned myself with, even given the times that we had when Terry was going in. A lot of people say, oh, I didn't want him to go. So he went in the Army, and he was a petroleum specialist. And he went to Iraq, and then he was stationed at Fort Hood. Then while he was there, he went with the first cab to Iraq, and then he came back, and then he went with to Afghanistan with the 267th Quartermaster Squadron, I believe, out of Fort Lee, Virginia. And after he got back, his 4 years was up, his 4+ years were up, and he exited the military. Not too long after he came home, we realized that he wasn't the same person, and we thought, because kind of took a year off, and I thought he deserved that, you know, to take a year off. And slowly we started seeing some changes in his personality, and we got him to the VA, and ultimately he was diagnosed with PTS, severe PTS, and rated by the VA for PTS. Unfortunately, as his PTS progressed, we were a very loving family, you know, very open with each other. He slowly isolated himself from the family as his PTS progressed. So we didn't really know how to deal with that. We didn't know that PTS was deadly. We didn't know that 22 veterans a day were dying, not necessarily 22 a day from PTS. I use the term 22 kind of loosely, but that we did not know that there was this epidemic going on. No one ever said, you know, hey, you might want to check this out, or, you know. So in February of 2016, February 5th, 2016, Terry was found in his apartment hanged. And that was after a very recent suicide attempt. He was being seen under care of the VA, and we tried to work within the VA. So one of the issues that I want to bring forth in veteran suicide awareness is you have to know what the VA's limitations are. You have to be firm with the VA, and you have to look for outside resources. There's lots of outside resources that will help you with your vet if he can't be managed by the VA. So that's what I'm going to say about that. The year after Terry died, I was crazed, and I was doing all kinds of Google searches, you know, as a mom, what could I have done better, and where could I have made a change, and what could be happening. And that's when I was learning that there was this 22 a day, and that PTS was deadly, and there was a lot of organizations out there that, you know, that were looking for money or something, but there wasn't that many that I felt like they were saying they had what I really wanted to say, which was, hey, somebody needs to know that this is happening. And I had gotten a Google alert for Flags for Forgotten Soldiers, which was started by Howard Berry. Joshua Berry is Howard Berry's son, who was shot. He wasn't shot at the Fort Hood, the shooting with the where the major did the shooting in 2009. He was part of the crowd, and he tried to help people, and he got hurt in the process of, I think he was carrying a lady, and somebody pushed him and they fell, or something along those lines. This man was a staff sergeant in the Army. He had been to Afghanistan, he had been to war, and I just can't even wrap my head around, like, you've been to war and you're being shot at by somebody on a military base in America in your own uniform. It just doesn't seem like you can reconcile that in your brain. Joshua Berry was diagnosed with PTS, and in 2013 he took his own life. And his father, Howard Berry, was of course devastated, as we all are. And he started going to the VA cemetery to put a flag on his son and his father, and he started noticing there was a lot of younger people in there, and so he started bringing flags, and ultimately the VA started giving him flags, the VA cemetery giving him used flags, because they're not allowed to use them over again. He had these big bundle of flags, and he found a piece of land over Cincinnati that would be perfect. He wanted people to know, and he found this piece of land. Turns out it was a veteran, and the guy was like, yeah, that sounds great. And so he put up this flag display of 660 flags and left them there for 30 days with the banner, kind of the banner that's behind you, that says 660 flags represent the number of veterans that die by their own hands each month. And that's how Flags for Forgotten Soldiers was kind of created. It's not a nonprofit. It's not for money. It is a bunch of people who have lost somebody they love who put up flag displays. And when I got involved in 2017, I think they had been in 13 states. I think we're in at least 25 now. I was the first one in Florida to put the first flag display in Florida, and it was so well received here in Brevard County that we've put up the flags in 2 other locations, and we've got reservations for the month of November and the month of December in 2 places around. So we need more flags. And so I said the flags are taking on a life of their own, and I'm kind of known as the flag lady. So
now, do you furnish flags to families that have lost a son or a daughter?
We haven't. I have a bunch of flags like that I haven't quite figured out what to do with them yet. The ones that break, so I pulled them off the sticks. Howard was going to make this 660 flag, right, of all the broken flag, you know. So we've been keeping the flags as they're breaking, and I had a bunch of them. I don't have one really handy, but I had a bunch of them made into. If you've ever seen one of these, right? So I've had a bunch of them. I went, because I work on the military base. Let me see, can you see this? Let me try and find the camera, sorry.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so I went and I just so happened to work with somebody that's on the honor guard, and I had them fold me up a bunch of them. And so I sent some to Howard, and if I know somebody's lost their loved one, then I give them one of these flags. But it's nothing formal or anything like that. But so we don't know what we're really going to do with all the flags. But maybe I was like, maybe little blankets for the ones that have children. You know, I don't know, right? We don't really know what to do with them. But
so Flags for Forgotten Soldiers is not a formal organization, structured organization. This is more of a grassroots organization, not even an organization, a grassroots movement, I guess you might say, to honor our fallen or our vets.
Our vets that die by suicide. Yes. Yeah. So they're generally, like I said, there's somebody that's been affected by it, by veteran suicide. Now we are seeing a lot more. We're seeing the momentum pick up now as the word is getting out, and we've been approached by different VFWs that they would like to have a flag display, and then that's kind of cool because then maybe we can get them to, because maybe they can buy their flags, you know, because that's really the cost of the flags. And you know, it's not like we expect, there's no fees or anything to do this. This is all, you buy flags and you stick them in the ground and you put a sign up, and people come. It's amazing. It's amazing, the people that come and look at these displays. They are, it's powerful is what it is.
So if somebody's watching this and they want to get involved, I guess they can contact you, or they can contact Mr. Barry and learn more about it.
Howard has the Flags for Forgotten Soldiers Facebook page. I have a Facebook page called Linked Arms for Veterans. And as well as, you could probably Google me, you'd probably find me. We're taking that picture, the picture that you show in the card, this picture here.
Yeah.
The night that was the night of the very first display. It's a beautiful picture. In case anybody wants to see that, that's a beautiful picture. And my daughter took that picture, and we went back because we threw in the lights as a last minute thing, and it was just amazing. So what we've done is we've taken that picture and made it into a true postcard now, and you can see I have written, and then on the back of it, is, this is, you know, like a pre-filled out postcard. We're trying to get people to send these to their elected officials wherever they live, right? So it just basically says, I'm a registered voter and I care about veteran suicide, the veteran suicide epidemic, homelessness, quality VA mental and health care, and other important veterans issues, right? You just put your name and address on here and your email address, and then I even put a little area where you could go and find out who your elected officials are. You're a local, state, and federal. We would like to see a bunch of these to go to the White House. If we could get a bunch of people to send them to the White House, that would be cool. And so that's what we're doing with that photo now, is to make them into real postcards, and we're handing them out at VFWs and stuff like that to try and get people, our registered voters, just to mail them, let people know that this is happening and we care about it.
Yeah, I also belong to the American Legion and the Marine Corps League here in Brevard County, and we all the groups now meet at the Veterans Memorial Center, and the VFW has a new chapter that meets there as well. So there's no reason why we can't get support for this.
Brevard County is really good, and what I'm trying to do is get other counties and other states. Now I can't, I sent a bunch to Howard, and when I was in Pennsylvania, I dropped some off in Pennsylvania. I'm going to ship some out to California these are places and people that I know, but I'm trying to get some sort of, like we're saying, a grassroots where people pick these things up and start sending them to our elected officials and let them know this is important to us and we're going to vote on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, before the show, before we recorded, we talked about a lot of things, and I know you have a lot to tell us. And right now, I'm so emotionally destroyed that I can't remember all the things that you wanted to talk about. So, I think you said you had some notes there. So,
okay. So one of the
other is yours.
One of the other things that I wanted to talk about was it sounds strange, and maybe it's a human condition, but we all get put into titles or columns or whatever, our little columns. Mm-hmm. And as the mother of a suicide, there's a stigma that goes along with suicide. And I will tell you that my son was mentally ill. There is nothing shameful for our family other than we feel like we couldn't help him, right? So he was sick, and he wasn't treated for being as sick as he was. Now, what happened is, because my son was in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they have in his medical records, the incidences that would make you maybe not be able to organize everything right in your head. Mm-hmm. I am a Gold Star mother, and we are a Gold Star family. There's people out there that think because that your child was a suicide that you can't be a Gold Star family, and that certainly is not true. There's an organization. Let me start with being a Gold Star family, a Gold Star pin family. There's a pin that's issued by Congress for families that lost their loved ones service-connected based on a list of conflicts. So Terry's, the Persian Gulf, is on the list of conflicts. He was there, and they have in his records the incidences that would cause him to have severe PTSD. So they were able to service connect his PTSD to his time in the Persian Gulf. When he died, they deemed his death service connected. I received a notification from Congress that my son was service connected and that I could apply for this congressional pin that makes me a Gold Star family.
And Robin, let me interject something here. It's someone who we know very well. Don Pearsall is very much involved in this, and I interviewed him a few weeks ago, and we talked about this because you were mentioning PTS, and you just mentioned a couple of times then you said PTSD, and I wanted to clear up something that a lot of us vets are talking about now, is we want to remove the D from that because it's not a vet's disorder. This is something that happened to vets. And when Robin was talking about incidents, I think what they use now as a guideline, if a person, if one of our heroes had 5 incidents, that's puts them in the category of PTS, post-traumatic syndrome. These are incidents that happen to the person that causes this. And I don't know how many incidents Terry had, but I think Don Pearsall said he had hundreds or whatever from Vietnam. And the guys from Vietnam are almost forgotten in this. They're still vets, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And they had it daily. You know, I'm not saying that the Afghans and Iraq didn't, but
your son was actually in Iraq for 18 months, and so he was there for more than one deployment then, I would imagine.
They extended his deployment out for government benefit.
I see.
Yeah.
And then the same way with 9 months in Afghanistan, so he actually spent 27 months on deployment, but just 2 deployments.
That's fact.
Okay, and
you know, I want to say that my son was not SEAL. He was an Army Ranger. He was a guy doing his job, getting shot at, and you know, checking for mines, and you know, he was just a kid doing a job. I'm not saying he wasn't a combat, because when you're in the Army, you're all combat, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying that that he was on security details, and he was in especially when he was in Iraq, he drove. Now I don't know how much you know about the energy over in Iraq, and how much energy keeping a forward operating base, which is what we have. You have to bring diesel for the generators, because everything is run on generators. And so his first tour, he was driving those trucks with diesel. Well, you know, he's kind of funny. He says, "Don't worry, Mom, the cabs are explosion proof." And I'm like, "Honey, I love you." I've been in the military. I know, right? Like, so, but he was trying to say, yeah, if, you know, so he knows that he's just got he's driving a big target down the street, you know, and he's got this security detail. And, you know, I can't imagine that, you know, you're every night when you get to your bunk, you're like, how did I make it through another day? I don't know, right? So I just want to say that Terry wasn't in, you know, he wasn't in some of these horrible battles that you hear about. He's just a kid doing his job every day, and it was scary. And he did get shot at, and a Humvee did blow up, and he did get hit. But it, you know, it wasn't a daily thing for him. But it, you know, I don't know if that kind of makes sense.
Well, yeah, it is, because For me, I was sent to Vietnam, but I never got ashore, and then I got sent to Okinawa. But I know that all the guys that I knew that went to Vietnam, sometimes it was very intense, and then other times there was nothing, you know. And so you go from complete boredom to complete intense chaos and havoc. And so that's really difficult for somebody to accept. Now, I don't know how old Terry was when he first got to Iraq, but I would guess he was, what, around 19 or 20?
He went in, yes. I'm thinking the year that he turned 20. He might have even turned 21 while he was there. Actually.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is most people, you know, we think of the ones that are fighting over there in Iraq or in Afghanistan now or wherever, that these are all hardened, grizzled veterans. They're like in their 30s and so forth, and that's not true. these are just young kids right out of high school, just like when I was in, the kids were just right out of high school, and we expected them to be able to handle everything that happened in this combat when, you know, you got people shooting at you, got bombs exploding all over, mortars, artillery, and aircraft, helicopters, and all this stuff, and it's loud and it's noisy. And these are just kids, you know, and they don't have a whole lot of experience other than the training they get in boot camp and their basic kind of or intermediate training.
I want to kind of I'm glad that you brought that up, because I didn't write that down, but that was something that I wanted to talk about. Now, I said I was pretty much a single mom with these kids, right? So I called it a three-legged stool, Megan and Terry and I, you know, we operated together because we couldn't operate apart. Then he goes and he joins the military. Now he's used to having some sort of cushion around him, right? He goes and he joins the military, and he becomes part of the brethren. And you brethren, you know who you are out there, you know. And he was very upset when they took him from the first cab and moved him to Fort Lee. And he got there and found out these same people, his same age, who had not been to war, and he's thinking they're going to get him killed. Now, so then he goes off to Afghanistan. Now he's got a new group of brethren, by the way, and he loves his brethren. Mm-hmm. So if I have one thing to say about the brethren, is I wish I knew who his brethren were when he started suffering, because his brethren would have came for him. The brotherhood would have came for him. But I didn't know until after he was gone. And we didn't even know for a year. I mean, I started, you know, we didn't even know for a year where he was. So if you're going through this, find out who your brethrens of your vet with that, your affected vet, because they will help. I don't care who they are. They might even be suffering themselves, but they will stop if they think that they can help somebody else do that. And that's what I've learned. That's one of the huge things that I've learned about the brotherhood. The brotherhood is there. And I think that when they get out of the military, that brotherhood, I mean, like it's, you know, you're used to feeling, you know, your home. It's like these guys are your home, and they've got your back, and then you're kicked out into the street, into the civilian world, where you can barely get, you know, you can't get a job. He was having a hard time getting a job. He's like, I'm going to get a job at Taco Bell, Mom. I can't do that, right? And so I know it's kind of, but the brethren is very important. I'm glad that you brought that up about the
and I've seen it, you know, being a Marine, I've seen it so many times. And we talked earlier in the show that Highway A1A, just to the east of where Robin and I are, is called Dustin Schrag Memorial Highway, and that's named after a Marine who was killed in Iraq and Ramadi in 2004. I believe he was 20 years old when that happened, going on 21. And the Marines from his unit, the 4th Marine Regiment, which I was kind of a part of when I was in the 1st Marine Brigade, they came down here and they had a reunion, and they have a film they made, and they had a private showing of film, which I had the honor to watch also. And I could just see how these guys were so close together, and they bonded together. They were, there for each other. And actually, I kind of got into this, and like I'm one of the brothers now, even though I wasn't with them. So
the brotherhood.
Yeah, and I'll do anything I can to help these guys.
Right. Yeah. So that's a good point. I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is one area where I'm sure that would have saved Terry's life. If I was able to call on his brotherhood would have been front and center. And I think it would have made a difference, but I didn't know who to call. So.
Yeah. So I guess one of the lessons learned from this is, with social media and everything and the internet, it's pretty easy to keep track of or connect with people. So that's important that they connect, and you know, if there's just a few connecting together, they'll connect with others, and they'll be there'll be a network there of help you can go to. And unfortunately, that didn't happen then, but I hopefully from what we're talking about now, that will happen in the future, that everybody will start reaching out and trying to find out who's in that network and who are the brothers.
Who are the brothers, and who are your at-risk brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The unfortunate one of, I call it the holy trilogy of PTS, and that's paranoia, anger, and isolation. And so as his PTS progressed, he was getting more angry and more paranoid and more isolated, to the point of where at one point I think I was the only person he was having contact with, and then one day that door shut, and then I couldn't get, you know, so but it was almost so subtle that I didn't even notice it was happening. But you know, it was, so isolation is one of the problems. And so if these guys had, you know, like a little heartbeat in their little clubs, you know, I know that's a mom thing, but you know, keeping track of your brothers and just every so often just saying, hey, doing a heartbeat, are we doing a check out here? That would be huge, I think, right?
So what you've identified is some indicators of PTS and potential suicide is paranoia. If you recognize someone as having paranoia symptoms, or isolation, if they don't want to be around anybody, they just want to be by themselves, or anger. And those are things, I guess, you at that time, you didn't know those things at that time. And so what you're really doing is such a great service in bringing this out and letting people know this.
The anger, I kind of understood the anger, but when it started turning towards members of our family, and like, this kid was a lovable kid, and now he's mad at this one and he's mad at that one, and I'm like, this kid never let stuff bother him, you know. And so that happened. And then when he had his own apartment, he had a 1-bedroom apartment which had a sliding glass door and a front door. And I remember going over and to see him, and he had a camera on both of these doors, and I kind of laughed, you know, because this is as they started declining. I kind of laughed, and I'm like, who do you think's going to come in here, you know, like, because you've got, both doors are in the same room, you know, like, you're going to know if they're coming in this house, you know, in your apartment. But I didn't realize then that was the paranoia had started. I already knew about the anger and the isolation. Now that at that point, I did know he was spending a lot of time in his apartment all by himself playing video games. But again, that was in that first year, 18 months, and I thought, you know, this kid's been to war for the last 3 years of his life. If he wants to sit a year on the couch and play video games, I'm thinking it's okay, right? And and unfortunately, that really wasn't. That really probably
you weren't able to recognize those symptoms or indicators of it. But if you'd have known as soon as he came back, that those 3 things were indicators of PTS.
Didn't know until after he passed.
You would have certainly taken a different course of action.
Yeah, and then when we had gotten him to the VA, I thought, oh, okay, we're good. You know, like, okay, they got him, they're watching him, they're giving him medication. You know, it's okay, and it wasn't okay. So, so that's how that. That's part of, we didn't know what we didn't know, right? Until until the door had slammed, so to speak. Once, you know, the week after Terry passed away, and I'm learning about PTS and how many soldiers were dying, and how many of the Iraqi Afghanistan, you know, that's where my mindset is. But then finding out that, you know, that it's it's a common thing, you know, like common 22 a day, according to the newspaper, right? 22 a day. And of course, we kind of talked about that in all that research, I read the reports that the VA reports where they're reporting that, and that they don't, not all the states report them. They have to be listed on the death certificate as a veteran. So if they're not listed as a veteran, if they don't know, then that's not listed. You know, there's so many holes and gaps in how they're collecting the information. 22 a day is probably a drop in the bucket. But
it's very, very underreported. I've talked to so many vets that say the same thing. They all say this is underreported. So, is there, when we're talking about these postcards, for example, these are really done nice and they're printed very well, you know, expensive printing. Obviously, you must need to get some funds. I mean, none of us have that much money. I know that, you know, for a fact. So.
Yeah, I call it, I've been self-funding, and I was just telling Dorothy Walsh is a mutual friend of ours, and she's the one that helps me get some of the word out, and she's got a lot of resources in Brevard's community and in Brevard's veterans community. And so so she had bought a set of flags. So we had the 2 sets going for the PTSD Awareness month of June. But the weather has been really crazy here in Florida. As you know, we've had rain and wind and stuff. So
every day.
With our flags. We decided we weren't doing any more flag displays until after hurricane season, because we started flying around. And so we're down. We had 2 sets, and we're probably down to 1.5 sets right now. So we do know that we're going to have to buy some more flags. And the postcard is. You know, I would like every household, but for me to afford that, I think that my last name would have to be Trump.
And, well, have you started something like a GoFundMe or anything like that?
Not yet. Dorothy and I are going to talk about that, and you know, there's a couple. So we're going to talk about maybe some fundraisers to raise some money and to pay for that. But we haven't set anything formal down. You know, so far the people that I buy the flags from, they give us a special price because it is for this good cause. I buy them the same place that Howard buys them from. So anybody that's putting them up, we're buying them from Collins Flag Company. I think they're in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Just a shout out to them. But yeah, so yeah, right now it's self-funded.
Well, we'll have to see if we can't get you some help in that area too. Yeah. And you know that I'll be happy to help you in any way I can. And so, anything else you'd like to talk about, or?
Well, I'd like to retouch on the Gold Star status thing again.
Okay.
Just that I was saying that because you're talking about Jeannie Weaver, who is a gem, and she's I think she's the local leader of the Gold Star Mothers organization. And so I just want to clarify that having a Gold Star pin, a congressional Gold Star pin, makes us a Gold Star family. But the organization, the Gold Star Mothers organization, these are the ones where people get confused. Like they'll say, well, if you're a suicide, you can't be a Gold Star family. That's not true. The Congress has some very, you know, like any government thing, if your soldier was in a war zone, that's listed on the sheet. If they were hurt mentally or physically, and if they died from those wounds, you become a Gold Star, Congressional Gold Star pin family. Now, the Gold Star Mothers do wonderful things. They do wonderful things. And some of them, Jeannie not. Jeannie has invited me in, you know, but they don't encourage suicides into the Gold Star Gold Star Mother Organization. They keep those mainly for people killed in action, killed in training actions, and on active duty kind of. So that's where I just would hope that if there's another mom of a suicide that's like me, I hope that they're not being discouraged to apply for their Gold Star pin and become Gold Star families. That's all.
That's a very good message, because it's all because of the conflicts and wars that our young men and women are sent into.
Yeah, since becoming, I call them, and you've heard me use the term, mom like me. And when I say that, it's the demographics are generally men. About 85% are men. They are some are married and some are not. There are demographics between that. But so when I say moms like me, I generally mean the females, that, you know, the wives, the mothers, and the sisters, because primarily it's about 80% that men do it. That's not to say that the women, you know, so there's husbands out there and brothers and sons that have lost their parent and sister, you know, to suicide as well. But that I call it a reach back. I'm now in touch with 400 families that have been affected by suicide, right? And 400 families and 400 different stories: men, women, men with children, men that are in their you know, in their 50s, and men that are 23, you know, and men that are women and men that they're getting married in 2 days, and they, you know, it's just, I just had a baby, you know, it's just crazy that it's so big. And so that's where we were talking about earlier, like, this is the subject of veteran suicide is just so diverse, I guess is the way it is. But they all have, you know, this in common, that they've seen something that maybe that we can't comprehend that they've seen, or something like that.
Okay, Robin, thank you so much for being a guest on the American Vision, and your story is so compelling and so important that I hope so many people see this, and whoever sees this, pass it on and share this video with everybody you know. And Robin, again, thank you so much, and God bless you. You're a true American patriot.
Thank you, Bill, and I really thank you for letting me get this message out, and hope I didn't run on too much. But just know that it's an important message, and yeah, have all your viewers send it, and certainly find me on Facebook. I'm under Robin Thomas, and Flags for Forgotten Soldiers, but you would find me under LinkedIn, Linked Arms for Veterans as well. Those are my two Facebook pages, and I would be glad to send out postcards to anybody who wants to join me in my little postcard campaign. And I appreciate, Bill, I appreciate the time.
Oh, it was my pleasure and my honor to have you on. And if we had time, we could talk all day. I would give you all the time you wanted. So, anyway.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching my chat with Robin Thomas. And boys and girls, I hope you can understand what we're talking about and how serious this whole situation is with veteran suicides and PTS, post-traumatic syndrome, and how these young boys and girls are getting, are receiving these incidents, or having these incidents happen to them when they're in these combat areas. So anyway, if there's any way that you can find in your heart that you can help, hopefully we'll have some more information. You can always get to me, and I can get to Robin, and we'll have some ways of contacting her and her Facebook page and everything else. So remember our vets and remember all of our active service personnel, and God bless them all. God bless you for watching and thinking about helping and actually helping Robin and Howard Berry and all those who are doing involved in this Flags for Forgotten Soldiers. So I'll let it go at that. And remember, you can get my book. It's really a good book to read too. And so thank you all again. And God save our America. We need you now more than ever before.